Hey there, and welcome to Tales by June, where hearts break, heal, and sometimes seek revenge. Let's begin today's story.
I stirred my morning coffee in slow circles, watching the cream swirl into the dark liquid like a hypnotic storm. The loft apartment was still wrapped in soft golden silence, sunlight filtering through the linen curtains. It was a far cry from the modest dorm room I used to share back in college, but not quite the luxury I was used to as a child. Ethan was still asleep upstairs, his arm probably draped across my side of the bed like always. He liked to sleep in late. He said he worked too hard, but I knew better. Half his days were filled with networking parties, country club brunches, and calls with his parents about the family name. He always had that pressure on him. The Kingston name meant wealth, reputation, legacy. And I was supposed to be his simple, loving girlfriend. The one who grounded him. And that's exactly who I pretended to be. You see, I'm not who I've claimed to be for the past 6 years. I'm not Bella Carter, the middle-class girl from nowhere special. I'm Arabella Callahan, sole heir to the Callahan tech empire. My father is one of the most powerful billionaires in Silicon Valley. But I chose to live without his name in college. I wanted something real. I wanted love that wasn't born from my last name or my inheritance. That's how I met Ethan. It was my freshman year at Columbia. I was wearing a thrifted hoodie and old jeans, sitting in the corner of the economics lecture hall when he walked in like he owned the room. And maybe he did. Ethan Kingston was everything the movies warned you about. Tall, confident, ridiculously handsome. The kind of guy who smirked instead of smiling. The kind who whispered something to his friend and made the whole row laugh. He sat 2 seats away from me. I didn't expect him to notice me, but he did. "You're new," he said one day after class, falling into step beside me. "Yeah," I said, keeping it vague. "Transferred in." He offered a charming grin. "I'm Ethan. Bella." That was it. That's how it started. A few conversations turned into study sessions. He said he liked how I didn't care about his last name. I laughed and said, why would I? He thought I was humble, grounded, different. In truth, I was playing the same game, just better. Soon, I was swept into his world. He introduced me to his circle, 2 guys and 3 girls, all heirs and heiresses of their own empires. Brent, his sarcastic best friend with a private jet. Caleb, the quiet rich kid who wore Rolexes in class. Then the girls. Chloe, the blonde ice queen with a family in real estate. Jade, the fashion influencer who judged you with her eyes. And Sophie, sweet-faced but wicked with her words. They tolerated me, but barely. Every comment was laced with poison. "You shop at real stores, Bella, or just thrift because it's quirky?" Jade asked one night at a party. "She's refreshing," Chloe would say, like a petting zoo animal. Ethan never defended me. He'd just chuckle and say, "They don't mean it, babe. You're different. That's what I love about you." I should have known then, but I was too in love, or maybe too stubborn to see it clearly. We moved in together right after college. He said it was a fresh start, away from his parents' expectations. But really, he wanted to prove he could make it on his own. Of course, he still took their money, just not in public. We lived in a posh loft in downtown Chicago. He got a job at his father's finance firm. I worked part-time at a startup cafe chain, letting him believe I needed the money. He never knew I had more in my trust fund than his entire family net worth. Every day I woke up, played the role of the loving, supportive, poor girlfriend. I cleaned, I cooked, I cheered him on, and I let his friends make their little jabs. They still hated me. Only now they had grown more subtle about it. But I held on. Because I loved him. Or maybe I loved the idea of being loved for something real. Funny how we never know the full story until it burns down in front of us, and I was about to learn that the people closest to you are the ones holding the matches. They say money changes people, but for me, it was the absence of it. Well, the illusion of that absence that truly changed everything. I remember the night I told my parents my plan. It was the summer before college. We were sitting in the sprawling garden behind our family estate in Napa Valley. The sky stretched wide and pink over the vineyards. A soft breeze rustled the roses lining the stone paths. It was peaceful. Perfect. But my heart beat like a war drum. "I'm not going to use our name," I said suddenly, fingers tight around my teacup. "Not in college. Not anywhere." My mother looked up from her book, brow furrowing. My father lowered his newspaper slowly, revealing his sharp, calculating gaze. What do you mean, sweetheart? He asked. I mean, I don't want to go to Columbia as Arabella Callahan. I'll register as Bella Carter. I want to live in a regular dorm. No security, no private car. I want a part-time job like any normal student. There was a long, tense pause. My mother's lips parted first. Darling, why would you want to do that? You've never had to hide who you are. You're not just anyone. That's exactly the point, I said, standing up and pacing across the flagstone. I am someone, but no one ever sees me. They see the Callahan money, the legacy, the tech empire, the trust fund. I want to know what it's like to be invisible. Ordinary. You were never ordinary, my father said softly. His voice wasn't angry, just curious. What brought this on? I don't want to be loved because of what I represent, I said, stopping in front of them. I want someone to love me because of who I am. Without the mansions, without the headlines, without the money. I want something real. My mother looked worried, her hands twisted in her lap. Bella, the world isn't safe for someone like you to pretend to be poor, that you'll be vulnerable. I'll be careful. I'll keep a bodyguard nearby if it makes you feel better. But no one will know who I am, not the students, not the professors. I'll live like any other girl. And when you find this real love, my father asked, then what? You reveal the truth and hope he forgives the lie? I hesitated. Yes, because if it's real, he'll understand. And if he doesn't, then I'll know it was never real at all. My father studied me, his eyes unreadable. He was a man who built an empire out of nothing. He knew the value of identity, of reputation. But he also knew how lonely power could be. After a long silence, he finally nodded. If this is what you want, Arabella, we'll support you. My mother gasped. Jonathan, she's not a child anymore, Claire. She's asking to stand on her own 2 feet. That's more than most heirs ever do. My mother looked between us, still uncertain. But eventually she sighed, her features softening. We'll need a cover story, a new identity. You'll have a separate bank account, just enough for tuition and rent. No luxury credit cards, no charity galas, and if anything feels unsafe, you call us. Immediately. I promise, I said, a mix of fear and excitement thrumming through me. My father smiled then, proud and amused. Just be careful. The world outside our gates doesn't always play fair. I don't want fair, I whispered. I want true. That's how Bella Carter was born. I cut my long, styled hair into a shoulder-length bob. Traded my designer wardrobe for secondhand jeans and canvas sneakers. I learned to budget. I burned my old life, neatly and quietly, until no one at Columbia knew I was anything more than a quiet girl with a hopeful heart and an old soul. It was thrilling, terrifying, liberating. And the day I met Ethan Kingston in that lecture hall, all of it felt worth it. At least for a while. The restaurant smelled of polished wood, aged wine, and something faintly pretentious. It was Ethan's favorite place. La Chaleur, a fine dining spot tucked into a glittering street of Chicago's elite. Everything about it screamed wealth, from the valet's forced smile to the maitrade's black satin gloves. And yet, as I stepped through the doors in my plain black dress and modest heels, I could already feel it. I didn't belong. Don't look so nervous, Ethan said beside me, brushing his hand against the small of my back. You look great. I smiled, small and tight. I'm not nervous. Lie. He leaned in and whispered, please just be cool tonight. Brent's been in a mood and Chloe's flying in from Miami, so she's extra bitchy. Just go with it, all right? I nodded, even though my chest tightened. We were led to the private lounge in the back, a room lined with glass wine racks and gold chandeliers. The group was already there. Brent, Caleb, Jade, Chloe, and Sophie, all lounging on velvet chairs, laughing over glasses of Merlot. There she is, Brent said with a smirk as we arrived. Our little Cinderella. Jade raised a brow. You clean up nice, Bella. Where'd you rent the dress? Chloe didn't even pretend to be subtle. It's refreshing, isn't it? Watching someone pretend they can afford the appetizer. They all laughed. I forced a smile, taking the seat Ethan pulled out for me. I waited for him to say something. Anything. But he just poured himself a glass of wine and said, let's not start. It's been a long week. That was it. No defense. No correction. No gentle rebuke. Just silence. My hands curled in my lap, my nails digging into my palm as I tried to keep the tears at bay. I focused on the candlelight dancing across the tablecloth, on the hum of the piano in the background. I reminded myself, you chose this. You chose to be invisible. Halfway through dinner, the taunts didn't even pretend to be subtle anymore. "So, Bella," Sophie said sweetly, slicing into her steak, "do you ever feel out of place in places like this?" I met her gaze. "Only when people talk like that." Brent laughed. "Touché." Ethan chuckled, shaking his head like it was all harmless teasing. "Babe, don't get worked up. They don't mean it. Just cooperate tonight, okay? Please? Cooperate." Like I was a show pony that needed to behave at dinner. The ride home was quiet. Too quiet. Ethan drove his black Tesla with one hand on the wheel, his other resting on the console between us. I stared out the window, the city lights blurring into long streaks of white and gold. My reflection in the glass looked small, faded, tired. My thoughts wandered back to them, his parents. The first time I met them. It was our second year together. Ethan invited me to a weekend dinner at his family estate in Connecticut. I had saved up to buy a simple blue dress, conservative heels, and a delicate gold bracelet, one of the few real pieces I owned from my actual life. I remember how nervous I was, standing in their grand foyer, gripping the strap of my bag like it was a lifeline. The chandelier above me sparkled like 1,000 tiny judgments. His mother, Evelyn Kingston, descended the staircase like a queen inspecting a servant. Her eyes scanned me from head to toe with the precision of a jeweler inspecting a fake diamond. "So, Bella, was it?" she said, lips barely twitching into a smile. "Yes, ma'am. It's lovely to meet you." Her husband, Charles, extended a hand, stiff, formal, cold. "What do your parents do?" I swallowed. "My father passed when I was young. My mother's a nurse." Evelyn's lips thinned. "Oh, how noble." Dinner was worse. They asked about my ambitions, questioned my choice to study literature, and made passive remarks about girls who climb ladders they didn't build. Ethan had said nothing then, too. Just smiled apologetically and squeezed my thigh under the table. I should have walked out that night. But I stayed. Because I loved him. Because I believed love could transcend the lines drawn by bank accounts and bloodlines. Back in the car, I blinked away the memory. Ethan was humming along to the radio, tapping the wheel with his thumb. "You okay?" he asked, glancing at me. I hesitated. "Why don't you ever defend me?" He frowned. "What are you talking about?" "Your friends, your parents, the things they say, the way they look at me like I'm a burden." He sighed. "Babe, come on. You know how they are. It's not personal. They're just protective." "Protective of what, Ethan? Their image? Or you?" Silence. He didn't have an answer. Or maybe he did, and he just didn't want to say it out loud. I turned my face back to the window. The skyline was beautiful. So far out of reach. And I wondered, not for the first time, if I had made a mistake. Something had changed. It started subtly, like a breeze before a storm. Ethan was home later than usual. Longer meetings, last-minute networking events, unplanned business dinners. He still kissed me goodbye each morning, but the warmth had faded from his lips. His texts turned short. His eyes stopped meeting mine at breakfast. And when he did talk, it was about stress at work, how exhausting it was to balance everyone's expectations. I tried not to overthink it. I cooked his favorite meals. I folded his suits before meetings. I left sweet notes in his gym bag. But with every effort, I felt more invisible. One rainy Thursday afternoon, I was curled up on the couch in our loft, sipping chamomile tea and flipping through my usual stack of lifestyle magazines. I wasn't even reading, just scanning for distraction, until I saw it. Page 12. A glossy photo of Ethan, my Ethan, at the Langford Charity Gala, arm in arm with Chloe Madison. She was radiant in a floor-length gold gown, curled against him like she belonged there. His parents stood beside them, smiling proudly. Brent and Jade posed nearby, champagne in hand. I wasn't there. He hadn't even told me. My heart stopped. The caption read, "Finance royalty, Ethan Kingston seen with family and close friend Chloe Madison at the Langford Gala supporting clean tech startups." Close friend? I dropped the magazine like it burned me. When Ethan came home that night, past 11, hair still slicked back from some executive function, I was waiting on the couch, the magazine spread open on the coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. "Hey, babe," he said, shrugging off his coat. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was." "You went to the Langford Gala." He paused, hand still on the back of his neck. "What?" I stood. "You went to a black-tie charity gala with Chloe and your parents and everyone else. You didn't tell me." He looked at the table, saw the photo. His jaw tightened. "Bella, I didn't mean to hide it. I just didn't want to upset you." "You didn't want to upset me?" I echoed, voice trembling. "So instead you dressed up, escorted another woman, smiled for cameras, and pretended I didn't exist?" "It's not like that," he said quickly. "They needed me there, okay? My dad, he's on the board. Chloe's family was one of the event sponsors. It was important to them that we showed up united." "United?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean Chloe on your arm and me nowhere in sight." He rubbed his face, sighing. "Bella, come on. If you'd been there, they would have torn you apart. You know how they are. You think they're cruel at dinner? Try putting them in a room full of cameras and legacy investors. They'd eat you alive. You didn't even give me a choice, Ethan. You just decided for me. Again. I didn't want to embarrass you." I flinched. He stepped closer. "Look, I'm trying, all right? I'm stuck between two worlds. I love you, but my family, my friends, they don't understand. They never will. I'm trying to keep everyone happy. Don't you see how hard that is?" His voice cracked, just a little, and it did something to me. Because despite everything, despite the photo, the lies, the hurt, I still loved him. God, I loved him. I stepped forward slowly and reached for his hand. "Ethan," I whispered, eyes stinging, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to accuse you like that. I missed you. I don't want to fight with you." He stared at me, unsure. "I know this is hard," I continued, voice trembling. "I know your family doesn't like me. I know your friends mock me. But I'm here. I've been here. I've loved you through all of it. I'll work harder. I'll prove them wrong. Just don't shut me out. Don't make me feel like I'm not enough." He finally pulled me into a hug, resting his chin on my head. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I clung to him like he was my anchor. "I'll never leave you. I promise." That night, as we lay in bed, my head on his chest and his fingers lazily tracing circles on my back, one thought pulsed louder than anything else. It's time. Time to stop hiding. Time to end the charade. Because maybe, just maybe, if Ethan knew who I really was, he wouldn't feel the need to juggle between me and them. If he saw that I wasn't a poor girl grasping above her place, but Arabella Callahan, maybe he would finally let me in completely. Maybe then, I wouldn't have to fight so hard to be enough. The Kingston estate glowed like a crown under the night sky, gold lights twinkling against a backdrop of manicured hedges, string quartets, and flutes of vintage champagne. The kind of world where every blade of grass was trimmed, every guest wore wealth like a second skin, and every smile had teeth. It was Evelyn Kingston's birthday, Ethan's mother. 60 years of elegance, manipulation, and well-curated power. And I was the girl who wasn't supposed to be there. But I came anyway. I wore a soft rose gown, modest yet graceful, with pearl earrings I'd borrowed from my mother. I told myself I belonged, that I had earned this place next to Ethan, that tonight I would finally be seen. And maybe, just maybe, I'd finally reveal my truth. Inside my purse was a letter, a carefully worded confession of who I really was. Arabella Callahan, heir to a tech empire that could buy out the entire Kingston estate 10 times over. I'd kept the secret for too long, choosing to live as Bella Carter to find real love. But now, after 5 years, I thought I had found it. I was wrong. The ballroom shimmered with crystal chandeliers and the clink of delicate glass. As Ethan guided me through the sea of guests, I clutched his hand tighter than I should have. "Relax," he murmured. "Just don't let them get to you." I smiled faintly. "I'm trying." We walked up to Evelyn and her crowd, polished, wealthy women who measured people with their eyes and dismissed them with their silence. I handed Evelyn a small gift box. "Happy birthday, Mrs. Kingston," I said, my voice light. She took it with a distant smile, setting it aside without opening it. "Thank you, Bella, wasn't it?" "Yes. Lovely name. Very modest." Polite laughter followed. Ethan excused himself a moment later to greet investors across the room, leaving me alone in a sea of diamond-clad sharks. I drifted toward the corner, scanning for someone familiar. Instead, I was intercepted by Evelyn again. "Oh, Bella," she said sweetly, "could you do me a small favor? The staff's a bit short tonight. Would you mind helping serve the drinks? You have such a natural grace with things like that." It wasn't a request. I hesitated, searching her eyes for a hint of irony. There was none. Just cruelty dressed in silk. "Of course," I said. In the kitchen, I took the tray with trembling hands and returned to the ballroom. I told myself this was the last test, that if I could do this, they would see I was kind, worthy. not just Ethan's charity case. I smiled as I offered glasses to her friends, one by one, until I heard it. Such a sweet girl, Evelyn said loudly, her back to me, but her voice sharp as glass. It's lovely how she's always willing to help. I suppose it's just in her nature. Once a waitress. Laughter followed, loud, cruel, echoing. She's not really one of us, is she? One woman snickered. Does Ethan pay her or keep her out of pity? Another murmured. I froze. The tray in my hands felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I looked around for Ethan, for a lifeline. He wasn't in the ballroom. I stepped outside into the garden where moonlight fell across marble paths and rose hedges. I walked quickly now, driven by instinct. Something inside me was cracking, and then I saw them. Ethan and Chloe, tucked away near the hedge wall, her arms around his neck, his lips on hers. My breath hitched audibly. He pulled back, startled. Bella, he said, blinking. I took a step forward. Are you serious right now? Chloe didn't move away. She crossed her arms and smirked. Guess the help got off early tonight? Don't talk to me, I snapped at her, then turned to Ethan. How long, Ethan? How long has this been happening behind my back? It's complicated, he muttered. No, it's really not. You cheated on me, after 5 years, after everything I've done for you, and you let your friends, your family, mock me like I'm beneath you. Bella, lower your voice, he said tightly, glancing over his shoulder. People are watching. Good. Let them. Let them hear how you treated the woman who stood by you when your parents called her trash, when your friends laughed behind her back. His eyes narrowed. I told you not to come tonight. You begged me to be cool. You asked me to be patient. But you never stood up for me. You let them belittle me like I was some worthless pet you took in off the street. Because that's what you are, he snapped suddenly. Silence. You think I haven't noticed how pathetic you look, clinging to me like some lost puppy? He continued, louder now. I've been carrying you for years, Bella. I brought you into this world out of pity. You should be thanking me. Gasps rang out. People had gathered now, eyes wide, phones half raised. No one stopped him. You don't belong here. You never did. You think dressing up and pretending to be someone you're not makes you worthy? It doesn't. You're nothing but a charity case I got tired of pretending to love. My lips parted, but no words came. The pain was too sharp, too fast. Get out of my mother's party, he spat. Now. Then it happened. He slapped me. Hard. So hard my face snapped sideways. The sting was immediate, but the deeper wound was silent and invisible. I stood still, stunned. People gasped. Some covered their mouths. Chloe didn't even flinch. My hand touched my cheek. My legs shook. And then came the laughter. From his friends, his cousins, Chloe, even Evelyn, who just smiled and sipped her drink. She got what she came for, someone muttered. She's lucky he kept her around this long. Ethan turned away like I was dirt on his shoe. I stared at the man I once loved, and all I saw was a stranger. I took one step back, then another. No one stopped me. No one apologized. No one said my name. I walked out of the garden, through the marble hallway, past the grand staircase, and out the double doors. The laughter followed me like a ghost, but so did something else. The fire. Because this was the night they thought they destroyed me. But it was the night I came back to life. The city lights blurred behind the taxi window as I sat in silence, my face still stinging from the slap, my soul colder than the wind outside. The party, the garden, Ethan's voice, his words, all of it kept replaying like a cruel film stuck on a loop. Every second cut deeper. You should be thanking me. You're nothing but a charity case. The humiliation, the laughter, Chloe's smirk, Evelyn sipping champagne like it was all a performance crafted for her amusement. I had stood there, shattered, in front of them all, and he hadn't even flinched. When I reached our loft, I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't need to see the space that once felt like home. Instead, I went straight to the bedroom, tore open the closet, and started packing. Dress after dress, blouse after blouse, memories folded with trembling hands. I yanked open the drawer where Ethan kept his cufflinks and watches, gifts I'd picked out, notes I'd tucked into boxes. All of it mocked me now. I ripped them out and threw them into the trash. Then I grabbed my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. The line picked up almost instantly. Arabella? My father's voice was gentle, cautious. Are you all right? Tears finally spilled, warm and silent. Daddy, I'm ready to come home. A pause. Then we'll send the plane. I don't need the plane. Just let me come back. I'm done pretending. I'm done trying. You never had to prove anything to anyone, sweetheart, but I'm glad you're coming home. I've been waiting for this day. I nodded even though he couldn't see it. I'll be on the next flight. When I hung up, I sat on the edge of the bed in the dark. The silence was loud now. Ethan wasn't home. He hadn't even called. No texts, no messages, no remorse. It was nearly dawn when I finally drifted into a restless sleep on the couch, still wearing the same dress. My body was sore. My chest ached like something had been carved out of it. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Samantha, one of the few genuine people from college who had always looked out for me, even when Ethan's crowd mocked her too. Sam, I didn't want to send this, but you need to see it. I'm so sorry, Bella. There was a video attached. My hands trembled as I tapped play. The screen lit up with a rooftop bar, dimly lit, music thumping, laughter echoing. Ethan sat at a table surrounded by his usual circle: Brent, Caleb, Chloe, Jade, Sophie. They were drinking, laughing, like the night before had been nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Brent raised his glass. So, King Ethan, think Bella's ever coming back? Ethan chuckled, clearly drunk. Back? Where would she even go? She's got nothing. Caleb snorted. You slapped her, man. In front of, everyone. She needed that, Ethan said casually, sipping his whiskey. She was getting too comfortable, playing house like she was one of us. Chloe leaned in, twirling her straw. You really think she'll come crawling back? Oh, definitely, Ethan said with a laugh. Bella's obsessed with me. She's got nowhere else to go. She'll come begging, crying like she always does. They all burst into laughter. The video ended. I sat still, letting the rage boil through every cell in my body. Begging? Obsessed? Like I was nothing but a lost dog waiting at his feet? I stood up slowly, blood pounding in my ears, vision burning. He had humiliated me. He had stripped away every ounce of dignity I had left, then celebrated it with the same people who'd always treated me like garbage. He thought I'd come back. He thought I was weak. He didn't know who I was. But he was about to find out. I walked to the full-length mirror near the closet. My reflection stared back, tear-streaked, bruised, tired. But underneath it all, something had shifted. Something fierce. Something unstoppable. I wasn't Bella Carter anymore. That girl was dead. Arabella Callahan had returned, and I would destroy everything he held dear. Him, his family, his spoiled little friends, every smug laugh, every whispered insult, every slap, every lie, every betrayal, he would pay for all of it. Not in rage. Not in haste. But with precision, with silence, with power. They didn't break me. They rebuilt me. Stronger, colder, smarter. And this time, I wouldn't come quietly. The Callahan private jet touched down on the private airstrip just outside of Napa Valley as the sun dipped behind the hills, casting the vineyards in molten gold. As the door opened, warm California air rushed in, but it did nothing to ease the cold storm raging inside me. I descended the steps slowly, one hand clutching the strap of my leather bag, the other tightening into a fist by my side. They were waiting. My father, Alexander Callahan, stood tall and immovable, dressed in his tailored charcoal suit, though I could see the tightness in his jaw. My mother, elegant in a navy silk blouse, rushed forward the moment she saw me. "Bella!" she cried, her arms wrapping tightly around me. And for a second, I cracked. I clung to her, sobs choking their way out of me, months, no years, of hidden pain bleeding into the open. My shoulders shook against her chest like I was 10 again. "I'm so sorry, Mama. I was so stupid. So stupid." "No," she whispered, stroking my hair. "You were brave. You followed your heart. That's not weakness, baby." My father came closer, his voice low and grave. "You don't have to say anything now. Come inside. You're home." The Callahan estate was built like a fortress. Modern, sprawling, silent. For years I had hidden it, even from Ethan, passing off photos as someone else's house or claiming I was house-sitting for friends. Now, walking back through its marble halls and glass corridors, I felt like I had re-entered a life I'd buried. I sat down in the sunken living room as staff brought warm tea. My parents sat beside me, both watching with a careful stillness. And then, I told them everything. The love, the 5 years, the snide comments, the slaps of words I pretended didn't hurt, the party, the slap, the video. By the time I finished, my father's hands were clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. "He hit you?" he asked, his voice barely above a growl. "And laughed about it," I whispered, in front of all of them, and then said I would come crawling back. Alexander shot to his feet. "I'll destroy them. I swear to God, Arabella. I'll bury that boy and his entire arrogant family in lawsuits and scandal." "Dad." I grabbed his hand. "I'll do it." He blinked, surprised. "I appreciate it, but I want to be the one who takes them down. I want to look him in the eyes when everything he holds dear starts falling apart. I want to be the reason he loses the only thing that ever made him feel superior, his power." My mother reached over and squeezed my shoulder. "Then we'll help you." "I want full control," I said, "of the company, of our assets. I want you to train me, like the heir I was always meant to be." My father's eyes softened with pride. "It's about time." The next few weeks were a transformation. Gone were the sweet pastel dresses and simple college sweaters. My days were filled with boardroom briefings, legal reviews, hostile acquisition strategies, branding revamps, PR team meetings, business intel. I trained in finance, corporate law, media handling, and cybersecurity. I wasn't Bella Carter anymore. I was Arabella Callahan, CEO in training of Callahan Ventures, a multi-billion-dollar empire with investments in tech, real estate, pharmaceuticals, and high-level AI. The kind of power Ethan and his family could only dream of brushing elbows with, and I would use every inch of it to burn their world to ash. Back in New York, Ethan sat in the apartment we once shared, tapping his phone over and over, staring at the unanswered texts. "Where are you?" "Come back, let's talk." "I miss you." "This is stupid, Bella." No reply. Days passed, then a week. Still nothing. The laughter had started to die in his little circle. Chloe had grown colder, annoyed by Ethan's distracted state. "You really think she'll come back?" she asked one night, scrolling through Instagram. Ethan shrugged, a flicker of doubt behind his confident smirk. "She always does." But his voice lacked its usual arrogance. Brent chuckled. "Dude, she hasn't even posted anything. No texts. You sure she didn't just run off?" "She doesn't have anywhere to run to," Ethan said. "She has no money, no job, no friends. She'll show up. She has to." But even as he said it, he checked his phone again. No messages. No missed calls. Just silence. It was starting to crawl under his skin. Meanwhile, I was already building my revenge. Using dummy corporations and shell companies, I started buying stock in the Kingston family's prized real estate holdings. I traced their company debt, hidden under loans, offshore accounts, and overleveraged investments, and began subtly squeezing the financial lifelines. Ethan had no idea. His mother had no idea. None of them saw the shadows closing in, but they would. Soon. The grand ballroom of the Hudson Crown Hotel shimmered with opulence. New York's elite stood beneath towering chandeliers, sipping vintage champagne, dressed in their finest. The whispers had started days ago, rumors that the elusive Callahan heir would be revealed tonight. No one knew the name, only that the announcement would change everything. Among the crowd, Ethan stood with his parents and old college friends, dressed immaculately in a black tux. "Wonder which son it is," Brent muttered, scanning the room. "Callahan's been too quiet for too long," Chloe added, brushing back her golden curls. "It has to be someone they've been grooming in secret." Ethan gave a half shrug. "Either way, this is big. A chance to get in with them." Suddenly, the lights dimmed. A spotlight lit the stage. The host stepped forward. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man behind the empire, Mr. Alexander Callahan." The applause was immediate and thunderous as Bella's father took the stage, calm and regal. "Thank you for joining us tonight," he said smoothly. "Callahan Ventures has always stood for legacy, integrity, and power with purpose. But evolution is necessary. And tonight, it gives me great pride to introduce the next leader of our empire, my heir, Arabella Callahan." Gasps rippled through the crowd. And then, spotlight on the stairs. She appeared. Arabella Callahan descended like a vision out of a dream. Her dark emerald gown hugging her curves, diamonds glinting under the lights, her gaze unshakable. Her presence silenced the entire ballroom. Ethan dropped his glass, his eyes widened. "No, no way." Chloe's jaw fell. That's Bella?" Mrs. Kingston's face paled. "She lied to us, all this time?" Brent stepped back, stunned. Caleb muttered, "Holy hell." Arabella reached the stage and accepted the mic with ease. She stood tall, no traces of the sweet, quiet girl remained. Her voice rang out, cool and commanding. Good evening, I'm Arabella Callahan, and tonight marks a new era for this empire. No one moved. I was raised with one principle. Earn your power, then use it wisely. Callahan Ventures will expand into untapped markets. We will dominate in tech, real estate, medical innovation, and AI. We're not here to follow trends. We will create them. People were already taking out their phones, recording. Her voice hardened slightly, eyes sweeping the crowd like a hawk. And let me make one thing clear. Callahan Ventures does not align with arrogance disguised as confidence. We will not partner with entitlement. We do not make room for vanity over value. Gasps. Murmurs. Arabella smiled thinly. If your handshake is fake and your loyalty paper thin, I suggest you enjoy the wine and stay away from the negotiation tables. The room shifted. Some were shocked. Others nodded, impressed. To those who bring strength, vision, and honesty, welcome. Let's build an empire. Applause erupted, rising like thunder. Her father stood off to the side, smiling proudly. Her mother clapped slowly, eyes glistening. Later that night, Arabella stood near the balcony, her posture relaxed but unapproachable. The city skyline stretched behind her like a crown. She didn't turn when she heard footsteps. Arabella? Ethan's voice came from behind her, uncertain. She took a slow sip of wine. He stepped closer. I didn't know. How could you be this? She turned to him, her face expressionless. You didn't care to know. Look, whatever this is, whatever happened between us, it's over, she said flatly. I was stupid, I admit it, but you lied to me too. This is some power play? No, she said sharply. This is a return. I was always this. You were just too arrogant to see it. Ethan stepped forward, desperate now. Are you going to try to ruin me? She tilted her head, smiling faintly. I don't try, Ethan. I do. He paled. You made a mockery of me. Now you'll see what happens when the woman you mocked owns the ground you walk on. Ethan was speechless. You really mean it? She leaned in slightly, voice low and piercing. Start preparing. This was your first warning. Then she turned and walked away, leaving him alone, surrounded by laughter and chandeliers, looking smaller than he'd ever felt in his life. The Kingston estate was silent, the tension like a thundercloud waiting to explode. Since the gala, Ethan had barely spoken a word. He sat in the living room, stiff, lost in thought. His friends gathered around, rattled, confused, waiting for answers he didn't have. 3 days had passed since Arabella, had revealed her truth. She really played us, Chloe said, pacing the room. The whole poor girl act. God, she's cruel. No, Ethan said suddenly, his voice low. She's calculated. Everyone turned toward him. We laughed at her, mocked her. My parents called her names to her face. You all treated her like she was disposable. She was a nobody, Brent muttered. We didn't know. Ethan stood. She was never a nobody. You just chose not to see her. No one had time to reply. That evening, the first blow landed. Brent came crashing into Ethan's home, phone in hand, face white. She exposed my dad, he gasped. Somebody sent the SEC years of documents, offshore accounts, bribery records, everything. They raided his office this morning. Our family company is gone. Caleb sank into a chair. Jesus. Ethan leaned forward, his stomach turning. Bella, Brent said, voice shaking. She's doing this. 2 days later, Chloe's turn came. Her assistant quit, then leaked proof of tax evasion and fabricated PR deals. Fashion insiders turned their backs overnight. Her stores shuttered. Clients fled. I've lost everything, she shrieked on the Kingston porch, tears streaming. She's dismantling me. She didn't forget, Ethan said quietly. All the names you called her. The looks. The snide jokes. Chloe threw a glass, shattering it. You were supposed to handle her, Ethan. A day later, Caleb's secret surfaced. An old truck accident, hidden for a year. Police reopened the hit-and-run case after receiving new dashcam footage and email confessions. He turned gray when he saw the evidence. I didn't mean to kill them, he whispered. It was snowing. I panicked. I thought it was buried. No secret stays buried, Ethan said hollowly. Not when Bella's digging. By the end of the week, all three sat broken in the Kingston drawing room. Brent's family faced lawsuits. Chloe's name was dirt in the fashion world. Caleb awaited police questioning. They looked to Ethan, blaming him, hating him, fearing what was next. I warned you, Ethan murmured. This is her style, one piece at a time. She's not destroying us all at once. Mrs. Kingston entered, lips tight. She hasn't touched you yet. Ethan met her eyes and for the first time looked truly afraid. She will. Because he knew Bella was coming for him. And when she did, it wouldn't just be destruction. It would be devastation. The Rosewood Ladies Club had always been Mrs. Kingston's stage. She walked in with her usual smug grace, wearing pearls and her signature disdain for anyone below her imagined status. The luncheon was in full swing when whispers suddenly shifted. Someone new had entered. All heads turned. She was elegance reincarnated. A structured navy dress, patent stilettos, simple diamond studs, no loud branding, just quiet, undeniable power. Mrs. Kingston's smile faltered. "Arabella," she said, forcing a laugh. "Didn't expect to see you in this circle." Bella smiled, polite but unreadable. "Oh, I was invited. The club board requested my presence after Callahan Group funded the community wing." Silence. Mrs. Kingston's fingers twitched around her wineglass. One of the older women leaned in. "Arabella Callahan, the heiress? My husband works with your father. You're that Bella?" Bella nodded. "Yes, I used to go by just Bella. I enjoyed a simpler life." Another woman asked, "Didn't you date that Kingston boy?" "Oh, yes," Bella said sweetly. "For years. It was illuminating." A few chuckled. Mrs. Kingston's face flushed. "She's not who she pretends to be," she snapped. "She tricked all of us." Bella calmly took a seat at the table across from her. "Did I? Or was I simply quiet enough to hear what you really think about people who aren't wearing a Cartier brooch?" Someone laughed softly, nervously. "I remember," Bella continued, "how you once whispered to your friend that I smelled like budget perfume. Or when you handed me empty glasses to serve to your guests, thinking I wouldn't mind." Mrs. Kingston sputtered. "You were dating my son." "And you treated me like I was hired help," Bella said. "Now that I run one of the most influential private companies on the East Coast, your tone has changed. Funny how money works on people like you." The table went quiet. Bella leaned forward. "This club has a reputation to uphold. I'd hate for it to be associated with people who speak ill of others behind their backs." The club director approached hesitantly. "Mrs. Kingston, we've received several complaints. Perhaps it's best you excuse yourself today." Mrs. Kingston stared, aghast. "You're asking me to leave?" The women at the table said nothing. Some even looked away. Bella stood, composed. "Oh, don't worry. I'll make sure they keep your seat warm. That you'll be welcome again, once you learn some manners." As she walked out, the low buzz of laughter and murmurs followed. Mrs. Kingston sat frozen at the table, watching as everything she had once ruled slipped right through her manicured fingers. And for the first time, she realized she hadn't just lost her power. She'd been replaced. Ethan stared at his phone, refreshing again. No call, no message, nothing. Since the gala and the club scandal involving his mother, Bella had vanished into a world of polished press releases, power meetings, and viral headlines. Arabella Callahan was everywhere, and he couldn't even get a text back. He walked into his office and paused. His assistant looked up nervously. "Sir, the board meeting's been moved." "Moved? Why?" "It's now under Callahan Group jurisdiction. They just acquired 40% of the Bennett project portfolio." Ethan's stomach twisted. That was his project. His biggest one. He rushed to his laptop. The news was already out. Callahan Group expands into Bennett Tech, strategic buyout under Arabella Callahan's direction. He slumped back in his chair. She had stripped it right from under him. Later that evening, he saw the email. "Terminated. Joint partnership term adjustment." It came from a firm that once called Ethan their golden boy. Bella now held majority control in their partnership, and she'd ended his contract, politely, legally, ruthlessly. The next day, whispers began at work. "She's freezing him out. Did you see the new contract clause? No hiring from any firm Ethan touches." Smart girl. Cold, but smart. He went home early. His father was drinking. His mother was still reeling from the club fallout. Chloe, Brent, and Caleb were ghosts. None of them showed up anymore. He sat in the silence. That night, he finally saw her again. At a private charity auction, Bella walked in like royalty. Regal, untouchable. Her smile was poised. Her eyes didn't flinch when they met his. He crossed the room, trying to breathe. The rooftop was quiet. Far above the city, beneath the warm amber of sunset, Bella stood alone at the edge, watching lights flicker like tiny lives, distant and cold. Ethan arrived out of breath. His eyes found her instantly. Bella, he whispered. She turned calm, her expression unreadable. I didn't think you'd come, she said. I had to. Silence stretched between them like years. I saw everything, he said. The deals, the takedowns, the silence. I deserve it, all of it. She gave him a tired smile. You do. I didn't know, Bella cut him off softly. No, you chose not to know. That's worse. He stepped closer. I was scared. My friends, my family, they always expected me to be someone. But with you, I could breathe. I didn't realize how much I hurt you. You didn't care until I became someone you couldn't ignore. Ethan flinched. Is this all just revenge? Bella's eyes shone, but she didn't cry. I loved you, Ethan. From the first day in college, when you made fun of my worn-out shoes and then apologized the next day with cheap coffee and awkward silence. She smiled, just faintly. I hid who I was because I wanted to be loved for me. Not Arabella Callahan, just Bella. Her voice broke. I was going to tell you, that night at your mother's birthday, I had the letter in my purse. I thought, if you loved me, it wouldn't matter. She looked away. But then I saw you with Chloe. Heard the laughter, the slap, the words. You're lucky I even put up with you. I can't forget them. Ethan's eyes welled. I was ashamed. I let them mock you to feel accepted. I thought I was protecting you. No, she said, firmer now. You were protecting your image. He moved closer, desperate. Then give me a chance now. I'll make it right. I'll leave them. I'll prove it. Bella shook her head. You don't get to prove anything anymore. She took a deep breath. My revenge is over. I didn't destroy you to punish you. I did it so I could let you go. Ethan stood frozen. I don't hate you, Ethan, she whispered. I pity you, because I gave you my whole heart, and you threw it away for people who would never bleed for you. Tears streamed down his face now. Please, just tell me there's a chance. There isn't. She turned to leave. He fell to his knees. Bella, please. She paused at the door. For what it's worth, she said softly, I really did dream of forever with you. And then she walked away. Ethan stayed there, broken on the rooftop, like staring into the city he once thought he owned, while the only woman he truly loved vanished from his life forever. And Bella? She didn't look back.